Let's now cross live to Davos, where our managing editor Rahul Kaval is with us, and he'll be getting us all the updates from the World Economic Forum.
So we're currently inside the World Economic Forum Congress. Dr. Jaishankar, we're seeing Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, all of them going in. That's the Prime Minister's delegation now going in. Welcome. Sir, how has Davos been so far for you and for the Indian contingent?
No, I think absolutely fantastic. As you would have realized, the moment Prime Minister arrived yesterday, there was a heavy snowfall, and going by the Indian mythological beliefs, this is supposed to be a good omen, and that is what is unfolding as time passes by. It was a beautiful dinner round table hosted by the Prime Minister, and it is amazing. The Prime Minister gave sufficient time. It lasted more than 2 hours.
So what was the interaction like? What did the industrialists say? What did the Prime Minister
say? After the opening remarks, Prime Minister gave most of the CEOs enough opportunity and time to give their inputs, their views, and at the end of it, of course, over the dinner, he also responded over different points that had been made and different suggestions. By and large, all of them were absolutely impressed, and they were in awe of all the revolutionary initiatives taken by the Prime Minister, and I think the CEOs from across the world were of the opinion that India is now has taken a lead in the economic growth of the globe, and in the times to come, it is Prime Minister Modi who can be trusted to change the shape of future of the world.
So you had dozens of the world's senior most business leaders. What are the kind of things they said about India? What more would they like to see from the Modi Sarkar?
I think virtually everybody was of the opinion that they had not come across this kind of a leadership for a long time in India, and the manner in which Prime Minister Modi had outreached the world community over the last 3-4 years, it had generated a kind of a trust in the business world across the globe that here was the man we could deal with, we could do business with, and who could actually give a lead to the entire world community of the world nations. And that is, I think, which came out unanimously from virtually all the CEOs, both domestic as well as the overseas.
So we hope to catch you again once you've heard the Prime Minister and on our way out. Thank you very much, Dr. Jitendra Singh.
Thank you.
You've been enjoying the snow of Davos as well?
Yes, but today the snowfall has stopped, but it's real cold. But I think it's a scenic beauty over here.
Not as beautiful as the state you come from, but very beautiful nonetheless.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's Dr. Jitendra Singh. That's Dr. Jitendra Singh, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister's delegation just went in a moment before now, and we're seeing several of the top industrialists who are here. They're also making their way in to listen to the Prime Minister in front of me just a moment before now. Let me speak to Mr. Kanoria from SREI. He's joining us. Mr. Kanoria, what are the key things you'd like to hear the Prime Minister speak when he starts speaking in a short while from now?
I think basically it would be definitely about the globalization, and today there is, everyone is talking about the fractured economies all over the world, so how the integration can take place, and I think that would be the mainstay, because when people are hearing different news from different countries, that people want to all get fragmented now. So this would be one of the main topics, and then definitely that how people can come and invest in India, because India is one of the best destinations to invest in, and the growth rates are good. Which are the sectors that he would like to address, some of the sectors where people can come, global investors can come and invest. So I think overall it should be on the globalization, on investments in India, some specific large sectors where the opportunities are there, where investors can come and invest, and also the kind of environment which has been created in the country, which is with GST and a lot of IBC, etc.
You've also been meeting your global counterparts. What's the kind of buzz you're picking up about the India story here in Davos?
See, everyone is very excited about the India story because they feel that this is one of the best destinations to invest in. But at the same time, they are a little, they have all their apprehensions because when they go and invest, so those apprehensions needs to be addressed on the ground level. And I think that is what people are wanting to hear.
Thank you very much. We hope to catch you again in a short while from now. So I'm going to try and zoom in, Subodh. and show that's the World Economic Congress Forum. That's where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be speaking in a short while from now. Remember, it is his address that kickstarts the WEF this year, and that is a very, very big deal because there are 70 heads of state who are here in Davos. In fact, I'm joined now by Ajay Khanna. He's an old-time Davos veteran. You've been coming here, you told me yesterday, for 35 years.
This is my 31st.
31st year. Okay, tell me, how is this year different from previous years?
I think for the first time we have the Honorable Prime Minister opening the World Economic Forum annual meeting. Great honor, very excited. And yesterday was first time India reception at the opening. I think India has put the best foot forward this time.
Okay, tell us also how you've seen the India story or the perception around India change over the last 3 decades.
Well, you know, when we used to do this India party, for example, 15, 20, 30 years ago, we would get 40 participants and we would be very excited. Now at all the India events, you get overflowing participation. That clearly shows that new India, how people are looking at India differently. And I think it's an amazing story over the last 3 decades, how India has been able to position itself in Davos.
The weather this time has been crazy, far worse than in any other year.
I'm told in the last 40 years, we've never had so much of snow.
40 years, huh? So that's something that's happening in the year that Prime Minister Modi has been coming. Thank you very much. We hope to catch you again in a short while from now. Ajay Khanna, long-time Davos veteran. There have been people who've been coming here for decades now, and they've really seen the India story change from a time when nobody really paid much attention to India to a time when India is being taken very, very seriously, not just here in Davos, but also all across the world. So we've got about 20 minutes to go before the Prime Minister speaks. I just saw Jagdish Thakkar, his PR officer. We also saw Mr. Jaishankar, our Foreign Secretary. All of them go in just moments before now. So they'll all be in attendance listening to the Prime Minister. We saw Mukesh Ambani, Gautam Adani, all of them going in to listen to the Prime Minister at the at the inaugural plenary. Remember, last time it was Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, who did the inaugural, and that was really seen as China's big power play on the international arena. I just want to move our camera around and show you some pictures from where we are. As dignitaries from the world over start entering the World Economic Forum Congress, waiting to listen to Prime Minister Modi. Let's now take you back to the studio.
World Economic Forum kickstarts in Davos in Switzerland today, and all eyes are on Prime Minister Modi, who will deliver the keynote address. Under the tagline of India means business, Modi will make a strong pitch for his flagship scheme, Make in India. India's giant jump in the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings will also figure in Prime Minister Modi's opening address. Prime Minister Modi addressed a CEO's roundtable yesterday and narrated India's growth story. The roundtable was attended by 40 CEOs of global companies and 20 from India. Prime Minister Modi also tweeted, and I quote, "At Davos, I look forward to sharing my vision of India's future engagement with the international community." Prime Minister Modi to kickstart the summit in a short while from now. Our managing editor Rahul Kawal has been getting us reactions from top ministers of the government and business leaders who've gathered there in Davos for the World Economic Forum. Prime Minister Modi hosted business leaders over dinner last evening. He'll be kick-starting the summit with a speech today where he'll be talking about India's growth story. Make in India is likely to figure in his speech in a big way, where he'll be talking about the government's new push for FDI, inviting foreign countries to invest in the country. We've been getting reactions from top ministers of the BJP government. Let's once again cross live to our managing editor Rahul Kawal, who's with us live reporting from Davos.
One thing's astounding. The story of India and the optimism and the kind of potential India has always held is now being looked at with a great deal of interest by the world. The entire world and everybody that I've met in Davos so far has been absolutely impressed with the kind of show India has put up, led by the Honorable Prime Minister himself. So looking forward to a lot of interesting things happen over the next few days.
You've been speaking to a lot of global businesses. What's the sense that you're picking up about what they'd like to see the government of Telangana and the government of India do?
Well, absolutely. First thing is the policy continuity. I mean, the story of India and optimism that India always has exuded is something that I think they believe in very, very firmly now. And they're just waiting for some serious, concrete policy continuity measures. And I just do hope that after the feedback that they would receive, the government of India officials that is, I just hope that we'll see some concrete measures from Delhi, which will obviously reflect in how we administer in the respective states as well.
Okay, and what are the kind of things that you think that the Indian business leaders would like to see your government and the government at the center do to try and make it easier and more effective to do business?
Well, firstly, in interacting with some of the businessmen in India, I think now the one thing that Indian leaders need to understand is that we have to be competitive globally. So for us to benchmark ourselves against the best in the world is something that Indian government and the state governments also have to start pushing very aggressively. It's not just about competition among Indian states. The competition is more between several countries across the globe, and that is something that all of us, the Indian polity, should get into their policy making.
So we hope to catch you again once the Prime Minister has spoken. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
we missed you in
by the way,
Hyderabad, where
must tell you something. You actually ski like a pro.
It's very sweet of you, but I must tell you that we had your father at the India Today South Conclave in Hyderabad, and he took on some very tricky questions and he handled them with aplomb. So all the best to you and to your government. Thanks, KTR. Thank you very much.
Let's now cross to Rajiv Dubey, our business editor, who's with us live from Davos. Rajiv, take us through the reactions that you've been picking up from the business community. A lot of excitement about Prime Minister Modi kicking off the summit.
Yeah, in fact, last evening when he held the dinner was for about 60 foreign CEOs, 60 CEOs, 40 of them foreign, about 26 of them Indian. And he apparently at the dinner was talking about largely social issues. He addressed many of the CEOs individually, and he essentially said is very good. He addressed Sunil Mittal and said that for instance,
well, we're going to try and reconnect with Rajiv Dubey, our business editor, who's also reporting from Davos. We've been getting you all the newsmakers from the summit. All right, on your screens are visuals of Prime Minister Modi walking into the summit. He'll be making the inaugural speech at the economic summit in Davos. It's a huge opportunity that India has gotten here. Prime Minister Modi will be talking about India's growth story, talking about Make in India, about the government's big FDI push. Modi, in fact, hosted a roundtable of business leaders last evening. We're being told that was attended by close to 60 business leaders, 40 from foreign countries and 20 who are part of the Indian delegation. Rajiv Dubey, I believe, is back with us live from Davos. Rajiv Dubey, Modi expected to start speaking any time now. Are you seeing a lot of excitement amongst business leaders from foreign countries about Modi's inaugural speech?
Yes, in fact, yesterday at the dinner, he addressed many of the CEOs individually. He addressed Mr. Nadella and said that, some of the work that he is doing on free Wi-Fi is just enormous and the government of India will support it. He addressed Anand Mahindra and said that, his effect on social issues is very, very good and that he should continue with that work. He addressed Mukesh Ambani at that dinner individually again and said that some of the 5 points that he had raised at that dinner meeting were very, very significant. He told Sunil Mittal that the work that he and his team is doing in Swachhata Abhiyan is very, very significant. So he had actually had a personal touch in that dinner meeting with these 60 CEOs. Remember, these 60 CEOs have a combined revenue of $3 trillion. So it was a very, very significant team of CEOs that the Prime Minister was meeting last evening.
Rajiv, stay on with us. We also have our managing editor Rahul Kawal, who's with us live. Rahul, you've been getting us all the big newsmakers from Davos, top ministers from the Modi government and top business leaders. Take us through what's happening there right now.
So we've just seen the Prime Minister enter. Yes, we've just seen the Prime Minister enter the World Economic Forum Congress, where he'll be speaking in a short while from now. There was huge interest as the Prime Minister was coming in and listening to what he has to say. This hall is now virtually full. And because the Prime Minister is now in, everybody now rushing in to grab their seats. In a short while from now, the Prime Minister will be doing the inaugural plenary of the World Economic Forum Congress. And this is really what kickstarts Davos for 2018. And the Prime Minister's theme at the Congress is to speak on how to build a shared future in a fractured world. That is the thrust of what the Prime Minister is going to talk about. And where does India stand in this? What kind of role can India play in trying to make this future possible? That's the core thrust of the Prime Minister's address. We saw earlier senior ministers in the Modi government tell us that the Prime Minister had a very detailed meeting. He heard all the global leaders. It wasn't just dinner. He actually wanted to hear from them. So he heard all the global leaders who came to the dinner meeting last night about what they had to say about the India story. And then later, once everybody had spoken, he responded to what they'd been talking about. And then apparently all the global leaders had quite positive things to say about India. Now, one of the key themes over here also is climate change. That's the global situation space. So you can see how much of coal is being generated, where this coal is coming from. You're also seeing, so they're also trying to push over here. Towards renewable energy. That's what they're trying to push towards, and that's one of the key thrust areas over here to try and take the world in the direction. This is really a coming together of some of the sharpest minds from across the world who are talking about how to make this a better world. You know, where is the world headed in terms of technology, in terms of ideas, and they all come over here to debate, to discuss, not necessarily to find answers, but to spark conversation. And that really is the whole idea behind the World Economic Forum. I can show you once again where the Prime Minister will be speaking in a short while from now. That's the Congress, a huge queue waiting right outside for people to get in. A lot of the big Indian dignitaries are already in, a lot of the Indian ministers are already in, and a lot of the top corporates have gone in as well. And in a short while from now, we will have Prime Minister Modi speak here at the World Economic Forum Congress.
Rahul, the rich and the powerful, they're gathering there in Davos. Prime Minister Modi will, of course, have an opportunity to show India's growing clout while fighting perceptions back home as well about economic growth, losing steam, and the fact that a lot of people have been saying that he's not been able to create as many jobs as he'd promised in the beginning of his term. Rahul Kanwal is with us live reporting from Davos. Those are pictures of Prime Minister Modi walking into the arena where he's expected to make the inaugural speech at the World Economic Forum. Modi's debut at WEF comes a year after Xi Jinping became the first Chinese leader to address the conference. Rahul Kanwal, you know, this is an ideal opportunity for Prime Minister Modi to showcase India's growing clout in the international community and also fight back perceptions back home that the economy is sliding and accusations that he's not been able to create as many jobs as he promised at the beginning of his term.
You know, I spoke to some of the people who were involved in putting together the thought ideas in the Prime Minister's address, and what I heard was very interesting. They said that this is not really salesman Modi trying to attract investment into India. He's done that at other opportunities. He's been meeting the international business delegations, talking to them about the need to come and invest in India. This really is a more big picture address, or is supposed to be a more big picture address, where the Prime Minister spells out what he intends to do with India on the global stage. What's the role that India can play in shaping the future of the world? That really is the thrust of the Prime Minister's address. So it's not so much as we often see when the Prime Minister is speaking in front of corporates, where he's talking about the need, what all his government has done and how they should come and invest in India. This is Modi spelling out, laying out a plan for the future. Anand Mahindra, when we spoke to him yesterday, had something very interesting to say. He said that when the Prime Minister speaks on Sundays at 11 o'clock, he does Man Ki Baat. That's his Mann Ki Baat to a domestic audience. Today he has to do a Mann Ki Baat to an international audience, and that really is what the Prime Minister will be doing. It's interesting, he'll be speaking in Hindi. So this is not going to be an English address, he'll be speaking in Hindi, and that again is quite a statement. The Prime Minister coming out here in Davos, speaking in Hindi at the biggest stage in the world. Remember, there is no other gathering anywhere else in the world where you'll have the kind of high-profile, power-packed delegations who are inside. Some of the biggest companies in the world, some of the world's most heavyweight political leaders, all of them listening to India. And remember, once the first session gets started, there'll be many others. But it's the first session that will really set the stage for the World Economic Forum. You saw how China came and virtually swept the World Economic Forum last year. It may not be at the same scale, but it shows that India also is very quickly moving in that direction, Sina.
Right, and Rahul Modi, of course, will also be making a fresh pitch, inviting foreign leaders to invest in India for Make in India and the renewed FDI push that his government has recently announced.
Namaste, Modi ji. Oh, absolutely. They've had some good news and they've had some bad news. They've got news coming in that the Indian economy will grow at 7.4%, and that's considered one of the fastest growing economies of the world, faster than China as well. Now, the reality is that there are good sides and negatives about the India story. The idea here is to focus on the positives. And when we spoke to some global business leaders and asked them, what's your perception about Prime Minister Modi and about the India story, they had something very interesting to say. They said that when we talk to a European leader at this time, or many world leaders, given the level of political fluidity in these countries, you don't really know whether the man that you're speaking to will be in power 6-8 months later or not. Now you've got an Indian Prime Minister who's well settled in his position, who's clearly hugely popular, whose popularity gets validated election after election. So these world leaders also then see the need to try and come spend time with him, make friends with him, try and understand what's in his mind. So that's also a factor of how well placed the Prime Minister is just at this moment.
Right, and Rahul, with the Prime Minister in making the inaugural speech, we saw stock markets recording an all-time high today. The Prime Minister is also heading into an election year in 2019. Businesses are looking for more assurances from the government and hoping that that Modi will be able to push growth to achieve double digits.
That's correct. In fact, I interviewed Devendra Fadnavis, the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, just a short while before now. And he spoke of how, there you see, can I just show you some of the other world leaders coming in to listen to Prime Minister Modi. As I said earlier, there are a total of 70 world leaders from different countries who will be here at the World Economic Forum over the next week. And many of them are in attendance already to listen to the Indian Prime Minister. These are leaders from Asian countries, from African countries who've come in here to listen to the Prime Minister. A lot of the Indian delegates have already moved in, and the reason for that is that the Prime Minister will start speaking in just a few moments from now. So naturally, the Indian delegates want to get the best seats in the House and want to listen intently to what the Prime Minister has to say. But what will happen is, as all these delegates come out, we can very quickly start getting reactions from them on what they thought of the Indian Prime Minister's speech, Maha.
Absolutely. Rahul, stay on with us. Prime Minister Modi expected to make that inaugural speech anytime now. Those beautiful visuals we are playing out of Davos, visuals of Prime Minister Modi meeting world leaders. His personal chemistry is something that everyone has been talking about. The fact that he's been able to establish some sort of chemistry with world leaders from different countries. He also hosted about 60 business leaders last evening. Our business editor Rajiv Dubey is also with us live from Davos. Rajiv, according to you, what are the big takeaways that Prime Minister Modi is eyeing from this World Economic Forum?
I think clearly, the biggest issue that he has to deal with is economic growth and jobs, and most of those will have to come once foreign investment is significant. It's already $60 billion, and he hopes to increase it substantially. One of the areas that he's looking for foreign investment is, of course, defense and Make in India policy. And, within defense, he has been very consistently saying that India is going to deal with each country on an issue-based things. So if you look at Israel, for instance, even 2 days before the Israeli Prime Minister was to come to India, he actually cancelled a $500 million deal to ensure that this is specifically about, it is for Indian interest and not necessarily for just the Israeli interest. The deal was about anti-tank guided missiles, and there the Israelis were not willing to transfer the technology fully. So there again, our relations with Israel, whatever they may be, personal relations, whatever they may be, it has to be about foreign investment into the country, and it has to be about issue-based investment policies as well as issue-based relationships.
Right, and Rajiv, didn't that deal come back on the table after the visit of Benjamin Netanyahu to India?
It's being discussed. It's being discussed. Precisely, it's being discussed, but it has to be discussed on Indian terms. That was the point. The point was that the $500 million deal, if the technology transfer doesn't happen, which is a precondition under India's Make in India policy, then that deal had to be cancelled, and it had to be renegotiated under the new Make in India policy, where technology transfer of all the technology of any higher in technology happens within the country, so that can be then leveraged for greater growth within the economy.
Right, Rajiv, stay on with us. Rahul Kanwal is also with us live from Davos. He's been getting us all the big political newsmakers who are accompanying Prime Minister Modi as part of his delegation. Rahul, you've been getting us voices from top government ministers. Tell us about the delegation that Prime Minister Modi is travelling with.
I just want to turn our cameras around and show all these people coming in at this time. These are some of the biggest names in the world of business, the biggest names in the world of politics, all coming in to listen to Prime Minister Modi. His address is supposed to start in just a few moments from now. This hall in front of me is chock-a-block full. This is completely jam-packed. It's the inaugural address, so in that sense, it's expected. A lot of our ministers in already, listening to the Prime Minister, wanting to listen to what he says. We saw the Prime Minister walk past us. He had a very cool, collected kind of air around him. Remember, the Chinese president had a few more interactions with the media, so the WEF was actually trying to set up some more interactions with the global media for the Indian Prime Minister, but that was not to be. However, once the Prime Minister's address gets over, we hope to actually hear from all the people who've been listening in to what the Prime Minister had to say. I want to go across now to Rajiv Dubey. Rajiv's on this other camera, not very far from where we are. Rajiv, just leave that mic for a second. Just leave that mic. So, leave that. So tell me, Rajiv, you've been speaking to a lot of Indian corporates, and what's the kind of sense that what would they like to hear from the Prime Minister when he speaks?
So, yesterday, for instance, at the dinner, it was a very easygoing one-on-one kind of relationship that he was portraying with the CEOs. He, for instance, told Indra Nooyi that Pepsi must include that 5% juice in the concentrate. Then he told Mukesh Ambani that some of the 5 points that he raised were very critical, and they are essential for India's growth story. He told Anand Mahindra that his impact on social issues is enormous. He told Satya Nadella, for instance, that his move to get free Wi-Fi is going to be backed not just by him personally, but also by the government of India. So he, at the venue, at the dinner yesterday, he was essentially established the one-on-one relationship. It was more about social issues that he wanted to address those. Here, now, in a few minutes from now, this is essentially going to be about the theme, which is shared future in a fractured world. He is likely to talk about. He set the stage, Rahul, before coming from India. He said that India is going to have issue-based relations with different countries. And one of the things that I was talking about is, for instance, the Israeli deal that he cancelled, that it has to be issue-based. If it doesn't if it doesn't meet India's interests, it's not going to be going through, and we can renegotiate that. So that's the kind of message that he's going to be sending out. But most importantly, he's going to be talking about India's ease of doing business. He's going to talk about how GST is now a done deal, and and that government is conciliatory.
How was the dinner yesterday? We've heard what the ministers and corporates are telling us on camera. What happened off camera?
So it was a very easy-going dinner, apparently. The foreign CEOs made their talks, including Indian CEOs. Some of them largely talked about what they do in the social arena, and then, of course, he responded to some of those comments and said that he told, for instance, Mr. Mittal, Sunil Bharti Mittal, that your initiative in Swachhata Abhiyan is very, very significant, and it's a good deal, and then they should go ahead with it. He was telling Mukesh Ambani that 5 points that you raised were very good. And Anand Mahindra, for instance, he was saying that your impact on social issues is very good. So if you look at overall the impact, it was an easygoing discussion with the CEOs, personal connect. Those are the kind of things that he was trying to push through.
Thanks, Rajiv. So you'll just go back, because we've got two channels, Aaj Tak in India Today, both broadcasting live from the same area. So I just thought I'll call Rajiv in, and with this, we take you back to our studios. The doors are being shut. The Prime Minister will start speaking in just a few moments from now. See me.
Well, thanks so much for getting all those voices. Stay on with us. Prime Minister Modi expected to make that inaugural speech anytime now. The World Economic Forum kickstarts in Davos today, and all eyes will be on that speech that the Prime Minister will be making under the tagline of India means business. Modi will make a strong pitch for his flagship scheme, Make in India. India's giant jump in the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings are likely to figure prominently in Prime Minister Modi's opening address. Modi addressed a CEO roundtable yesterday and narrated India's growth story. The roundtable was attended by 40 CEOs of global companies and 20 from India. Prime Minister Modi, in fact, also tweeted, and I quote from that, at Davos, "I look forward to sharing my vision for India's future engagement with the international community." Rajiv Dubey, our business editor, is with us live this afternoon. He's been getting us reactions from top business leaders and giving us a sense of what exactly to expect from the World Economic Forum. Rajiv, the fact that Prime Minister Modi is making the inaugural address also sends out a signal that the world is looking at India as one of the fastest growing economies. Last year, it was Xi Jinping who made the inaugural address.
These are the kind of solutions which are...
Yes, absolutely. And look at this. This couldn't get better than this. An inaugural by the Prime Minister of India, a closing by Donald Trump, the President of the United States. There's going to be Theresa May, there's going to be Justin Trudeau, the Canadian President, there's going to be Angela Merkel. This is a very, very big event as far as even the WEF is concerned. We've been meeting CEOs who've been telling us that from the India point of view, 130-member delegation has never happened. Ajay Khanna, we were meeting, who actually was part of the CII and has led several delegations from India into the WEF, has said, 20, 30, 40, 50 is the maximum number of CEOs that have ever appeared. So this is a very significant event. And you remember, even after this address, Chanda Kochar, we were meeting just outside this venue before she went in for this address. She was telling us that after the meeting, after his address, he's actually called a select handful of Indian CEOs for another discussion, a short discussion, 5-minute, 10-minute discussion, which we didn't know about until now. And Chanda Kochar was telling us that he actually has asked all these CEOs to gather and meet him after his address, so that perhaps he wants to take a feedback. That's the kind of seriousness that he takes this with. So I guess once that is over, we will have Chanda Kochar talk to us. She has assured us that she'll be around and she'll be talking to us and many of the other CEOs as soon as the address gets over.
Captain Najib, we're getting live visuals of Prime Minister Modi, who's reached the stage at Davos. Take us through what's happening there now. When will Prime Minister Modi start speaking?
Dear President of the Swiss Confederation, Alain Berset, Prime Minister of India, the Honorable Narendra Modi, Your Royal Highnesses, distinguished heads of states and government, excellencies, dear co-chairs, dear members and friends of the World Economic Forum. It's a great pleasure to welcome you all for the 48th annual meeting. Over the next 4 days, in multiple sessions, we will analyze the big challenges we all face, and we will try to find solutions and join, hopefully, in common action to address the deficiencies of our global system. We will do so under the theme, creating a shared future in a fractured world. There is no doubt that we are living in a complex, interconnected, fast-moving world. We all depend on each other. We are here in this room and we have a special responsibility to demonstrate that only through joint efforts we can improve the state of the world. In our dialogue and in our interactions, we have to be responsive to the voices of a fractured world. Sustained economic development can only be possible if we have social inclusion. I wish you a collaborative, a comprehensive, a constructive and an impactful stay here in the snowy Davos. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you the President of the Swiss Confederation and Federal Councillor of the Home Affairs of Switzerland, Alain Berset. For the last 48 years, Switzerland has been the home of the World Economic Forum. The collaboration between the Forum and the federal, cantonal and communal governments has been outstanding. And as the annual meeting has grown over decades, the Swiss government at all levels has been a true partner along the way, always ensuring excellent support, security, and above all, hospitality for all the participants. And I should add this year, and thanks for the very fast snow removing in Davos. I would like to use this opportunity to thank you, Mr. President, the government, the parliament, and especially the people of the Canton de Grison and of course of our host city, Davos Cloisters. Mr. President, the floor is yours. Please welcome the President of the Swiss Confederation.
Monsieur le Président, cher professeur
Thank you, my
Schwab,
dear Professor Schwab,
Monsieur le Premier ministre,
Prime Minister,
Excellences,
Your
Mesdames et Messieurs,
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen.
je vous souhaite la bienvenue en Suisse,
Welcome to Switzerland,
ici à Davos,
to Davos,
pour l'édition
for the
2018 de la réunion annuelle du
2018
Forum
annual meeting
économique mondial.
of the World Economic Forum.
C'est pour la Suisse,
For
pays
Switzerland,
hôte du Forum,
the host country for the
plaisir et un
forum,
honneur de pouvoir vous
it is a
accueillir
pleasure and an honor to be able to welcome you. We are here and ready to think together about the future of our societies and reflect together about the trends and actions that bring change and prosperity. Looking back over the last few years, it's immediately clear just how pertinent the theme for this year's meeting is, calling on us to create a shared future in a fractured world. Whereas 2016 was a year of disruption, surprises, confounded certainties and unexpected changes. Well, 2017 was somewhat calmer. So what will happen in 2018?
Eh bien, cette année, nous arriverons peut-être à la conclusion tout à fait paradoxale que la disruption a émergé non pas des extrêmes,
disruption has emerged not from society's extremes, but from its center, while social and economic progress is also coming from the majority and reaching most people. If we are to continue walking this path of progress, 2018 has to be the year where we reaffirm the importance of international collaboration and multilateralism. Our shared responsibility has to return to its rightful place at the very top of our priorities. Ladies and gentlemen, we face multiple challenges. We are seeing the emergence of geopolitical fractures and instability in many regions of the world. We are seeing protracted armed conflicts that destabilize entire economies and societies, leading to mass displacements and sowing the seeds of terrorism. And then there is also climate change, which is a major concern, and inequalities at the global level. We know what we need to do to reduce these uncertainties and to guarantee the safety and well-being of our populations. We need political will at all levels. There needs to be strong involvement from the international institutions on security, peace, and human rights. There needs to be a partnership between national and international institutions. And there also needs to be strong engagement from the financial institutions. However, in many parts of the world, things seem to be moving in the opposite direction, looking inwards rather than outwards, a return of nationalism, towards a narrowing of the political outlook, together with mistrust of multilateralism and suspicion of free trade. These trends continue to widen existing fractures rather than narrow them. I, however, firmly believe that we need to promote international cooperation in order to promote political stability, good governance, and economic development. Because if widespread mistrust and resentment continues to spread, it will be the poorest and the weakest who will be the first victims. Naturally, that necessitates political support at the national level. There can, ladies and gentlemen, be no international cooperation without states willing to cooperate. And to achieve this, we need solid roots, we need strong ownership at the national level. And we also need to have shared confidence in collective action. Anyone who's scared of cooperation withdraws from the world. Our population's confidence in a state which creates structures and protects its citizens is essential to guarantee openness, dialogue and cooperation.
Ladies and gentlemen, without strong support at home, foreign policy risks to remain empty words. And the strong growth of the global economy feeds the illusion that nationalists and protectionist movements were just a passing phase. But they are not. Economic good news stories must not blind us. We need to tackle far-reaching structural problems. And the lesson of the last 2 years is clear and still applies. The mainstream of society must see society as being fair, otherwise it will use its veto. There is only one solution: to remove the underlying causes of that unease, resentment and anger. To a policy of social inclusion, ranging from educational opportunities for everybody to a social state that mobilizes people's talents, to a fiscal policy that allows us to invest in social cohesion. Our continued openness to the world and the will to cooperate internationally can only be guaranteed if people do not feel powerless. Our societies can only function if people feel that they can control developments like globalization or immigration. The US political theorist John Ikenberry reminds us of the formula for success in the post-war years. I quote, "Sustained domestic support for openness," post-war leaders knew, would be possible only if countries also established social protections and regulations that safeguarded economic stability. The Atlantic Charter, announced by Roosevelt and Winston Churchill in 1941, and the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 were early efforts to articulate a vision of economic openness and social stability. End quote. Are things really so different today? I don't believe so. Most people have no objection to openness and exchange as long as they feel secure. And they can only feel secure if they have economic opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, what does a country need to remain competitive over a long period of time? Stability and functioning institutions, good infrastructure, an educational system that produces innovative minds, and above all, equal opportunities. Equal opportunities which allow men and women to exploit their potential for the benefit of society. Actually, it is clear that the better the educational and life opportunities people have, the greater a country's innovative strength, and the better women's position in the labor markets, the stronger the economy is. Over the past decades, the welfare states and the market economy have often been played off against each other. The game was wrong, as well as the assumptions. After all, uncertainty and social injustice do not lead to economic prosperity. Fear is not productive. Fear does not drive innovation. The opposite is true. Security in society gives us the freedom to try out new ideas. Economic security gives us the courage to bring out the best in ourselves. And societies in which income is fairly distributed and in which there is equal access to health system also generate more trust among the members. And this is essential for a country to attract business, because no one invests without trust. Ladies and gentlemen, is this an argument in favor of the primacy of politics? No, it is not. We need a balance between politics and economics. just as we need a balance between competitiveness on the one hand and social solidarity and fair educational opportunities on the other. It is not the primacy of politics that we need. It is the primacy of the political. We need to recognize that political considerations form the basis of our society and form the basis of our value system, not only the material aspects of people's lives, but also their attitudes, feelings and expectations. And this includes the rule of law, human rights and democracy, and not least our sense of responsibility for the world's problems. Only if we base our actions on the primacy of the political can we oppose to the attitude of resistance, frustration and mistrust. Only thus, by strengthening political legitimacy domestically, can we strengthen international relations and cooperation. Let us make 2018 a year in which we overcome the phase of hand-wringing and self-criticism, in which each of us works to promote social inclusion.
Thank you very much, President Berset, for so well framing the purpose of our being together here. It is now my distinct pleasure and great privilege to introduce our opening speaker, His Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. Prime Minister, we know each other since a number of years, but a very warm welcome to you on your first visit to Davos. Your presence here has a very special significance, as it comes at an immensely important moment in time. Globally, we are moving towards a multipolar, and I should also add, a multi-conceptual world, marked by precarious points of friction. In this seemingly fractured world, India presents a bright image of dynamism, of optimism and promise. India is the world's largest democracy. With more than 1.3 billion people, India will be the most populous country within the next decade. India's unique demographic dividend, rising tide of entrepreneurial spirit, breakthrough innovations in many sectors, and remarkable pace under your leadership, Mr. Prime Minister, of bold and structural reforms have boosted the macroeconomic fundamentals and enhanced India's long-term economic outlook and, of course, provides a great investors' opportunity. Under your leadership, Prime Minister, India is expanding its influence in a wide range of global initiatives, including the Paris Agreement, Climate Agreement, and the International Solar Alliance. India is guiding the world on how high-tech technological advancement, such as space mission, can coexist with grassroots innovation, social entrepreneurship, such as the BHIM mobile app, which is greatly advancing India's digital payment ecosystem. India's philosophy of the world is one family. Vasu Daiva Kutum Bakum, that you often quote, is closely aligned to the theme of this year's annual meeting, and today we all are looking forward to hearing you about your vision for India, for the world, and for India's role in the world. Personally, I would like to thank you for your country's continuous support of the World Economic Forum for nearly 4 decades, and, as evident here in the room, for the strong Indian delegation, which has become a tradition, a delegation of government and business leaders, and for many projects and initiatives. We have your support, and ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.